Hey Harmonizers, welcome to the World Equestrian Center in Ocala, Florida. I'm going to take you guys for a little bit of a tour there. We stopped in for a visit. I wanted to check it out because I'm hoping to compete Elysia in some jumpers coming up. So obviously they've got some amazing sweets here. I ended up choosing one of these little key lime mousse things that has a raspberry or blackberry filling inside. So delicious. Evelyn ended up choosing the sprinkle cupcake. Go figure, a perfect kids treat. They also have one of the most epic toy stores that I've ever been in. Check out these life-size stuffed toys. They've got life-size giraffes and ponies, and they've got this dinosaur. Pretty cool. Here's a little look at the restaurant heading out onto the main Grand Prix ring, and a little look at the hotel onto the ring. They also have a stadium as well, but not anywhere near as cool to look at as having the hotel in the background. Pretty neat place to be. I'm hoping to have Elysia trained up for some low level jumpers. And I mean low level, like the 0.9 meters, because I haven't done a whole ton of jumping training with her. Little Melina getting a little snack there. She's started on some solid foods, which is pretty exciting. I think she's having sweet potato there and loving that as her little snack. More sweets inside the ice cream shop. So many delicious things to look at. And I'm pretty excited. So stay tuned for that. And hopefully I'll be competing there later this winter. So here's a little look at Fenya. She was a working student that came down from Pennsylvania to be with me for the week. So she was helping out with the horses, and she got to ride Elon and Elysia and just help out with getting the horses ready for different filming for different things that we were doing. This is Elysia working on her lead changes, and I'll show you a little bit her very first jumping course. So here's going off on her right lead canter, and I'll show you some of her flying lead changes. We started off with a little figure eight, and then she felt like she was ready to start working on a bit of a straighter line. So here's from the right to the left. You can see that was easy, it was smooth, no problems with that whatsoever. And then left to right, she was a tiny little late in the back end there, but pretty easy. And you guys can think back to when we struggled to even get our right lead all together. She had to figure out her balance and learn how to move a little differently. And some people were saying things like, oh, check her back, check her saddle, do this, do that. Like, sometimes horses just need time to develop the right muscles and to learn the tasks that they're being asked to do. So here's another left lead to a right lead, getting her to figure out how to jump in her back end there to do those changes. And we're starting to do them on more of a straighter line and getting multiple lead changes in a row, which is pretty exciting. Once we can get some more rhythm down, hopefully we can put together something a little fancier. But here's what it looks like in the beginning. It was actually the working student Fenya's idea to ride in the paddock. So here we are doing our little lead changes. You can see she's doing some rights to left. That one happened really, really fast. Left. And then we're going to do another one to the right there. So she's doing really well with figuring out how to swap those. Pretty proud of her to get to this point. And the reason why we're riding in the field is the footing in the sand ring is actually pretty deep. Makes it hard to do some of the fancy stuff, and definitely for jumping too. So a really good idea to leave our jump set up on the grass ring, or not the grass ring, but in the grass field. Here's another little look at, here's a left to a right, and then a right to a left, a little late in the hind end there, and then over to the right again. She's doing a really good job playing around and figuring out that. That's tough work to figure out, and she's starting to figure out to bounce back and forth in her leads, which is pretty exciting. So then I'll just show you guys her first jumps out in the field as well, and her first jumping course out here. So what a great idea to be able to use the grass. It's easier for the horses to ride on than doing the sand ring. That was just Elysia assuming that we were going to do some flying lead changes, and I had to say, no, we're actually going to jump. She was a little bit confused. Can't blame her though, because we were literally just working on the lead changes. That's their shelter in the background with their hay. And then the other cool thing about it is I can leave my jumps set up. And so even though the horses will probably knock them over, I can very easily just put the rails back up before I hop on, Whereas in the sand ring, because the other people at the boarding farm, they usually train for barrel racing and things like that, I can't leave my jumps set up. So I have to take them down each time, which when I'm coming to the farm with only a couple hours each time, because I'm trying to get there while I have my babysitting for the girls at home, it doesn't leave a lot of time to set up a course and take down a course. It just adds, even if it takes 20 extra minutes, that means I only have an hour and a half with my horses instead of 2 hours with my horses. So the fact that I'm going to be able to leave all the jump standards and poles out in the ring, hopefully they don't chew on them too much and destroy them too badly, but it'll be worth it to have that setup time be a lot less. In fact, I can even set them up as part of my horse's walking warm-up, which will be pretty awesome. So I'm really excited about that. The sand ring is plenty big, but the deep footing definitely makes it a little bit more challenging. So this was really nice, although on the grass footing you have to be a little bit careful not to slip or slide or anything like that. So here's a little look at our first little course. Here we come a little too deep and we knock the rail, which is kind of funny because while we were practicing before Fenya started to film, we actually didn't hit any rails at all. She's really good about picking up her feet, but we just got a little too deep. And the hardest part for her really to accomplish was just being able to ride in the open field, just develop that emotional control with so much else going on. Coming into the little combination here of 2 strides, she's riding that really nicely and easily. King is actually in the round pen. So while I'm riding out here, Fenya's on Elon and then King's in the round pen. So there is a spot where I can put my horses that I'm not riding while riding in this big field, which is great. And then lets me just have all this space to work in, which is really good. And Elysia is doing really well listening to my cues, not getting too excited. There we just took a little kind of extra half step because she just came in a little bit too slow or a little bit too collected. But she's managing her emotions really well. She's seeming really easy to ride and move forward, which is fantastic because we all know Elysia can have a little bit of a wild streak that we call the sleeping dragon. You just never know when she's coming out to play. Here's the 2 strides again, doing that really nicely. One of the benefits to Florida is that it is mostly flat. So even though it is not a riding ring that we're riding in, it's a pretty flat surface for the most part to ride through. So she did that really well. We've got some work to do before we can compete at the World Equestrian Center, but hopefully we'll be ready to do some low-level jumpers. And now we're going to take a week of vacation and off to a resort.